Thank you for joining in this morning. And we are coming on a very important topic, which I would say which is very close to my heart, the topic, the crucifixion, real or real? The crucifixion of Jesus, is it real or real? By the way, if you are someone like me, you would be keep observing a lot of things around people, right? Today, everybody wants to show who they are. And one of the common things you see is people want to demonstrate their faith by different things they wear. One of the common things you see is like people wear a necklace with a cross hanging or a pendant hanging, or you see someone with a any kind of jewelry or any kind of things that they want to wear across, that wear like a cross, show off who they are and what is their faith is. Somewhere you can see that, right? Probably if you're looking out for a person, an Islam person, you can find something from his who he is, or you find a Hindu by who they are, by their visible appearance. And today, the common sign for Christianity, for any Christian, you'll find that they will have a little cross around them, but need not be. This is my just observation. But this particular visible sign, in fact, when I travel across places, I look out for the churches, and then I see, is there a cross anywhere out, right? Where you want to park and get in. Likewise, the cross is a foundational or a key, which I would say you can never miss Christianity without the cross. Cross is the significant sign that which can say this is Christianity, or the centrifocal of Christianity. Now look at that. So your faith in Christianity is not based on a feeling. So if you come to Jesus just because you say, "Oh, I have a feeling, that's why I love Jesus." No, my friend, faith is just beyond feeling, just beyond your emotion. It is something, it's not a fantasy. I'm not talking about a fantasy. I'm not talking about a fairy tale, but I'm talking about someone who is much more stronger, which I would call the hard facts. I'm a more neural person thinking about what's the hard facts that would I choose. Why would I want Christianity? Why would I need Jesus? Why the cross? And today, come with me. I invite you. Probably you have been through many, many Good Fridays. Some of you would have been through 30 Good Fridays, or someone who has not been through, maybe it's your first Good Friday. But I want to invite you with a complete different lens. The crucifixion, real or real? Come with me. I'm going to go dive deeper into it. Hold on, make notes, and let's come back with more questions on it. By the way, why do I call it the most significant incident or milestone in the life of Jesus? If there is no cross, there is no Jesus. If there is no cross, there is no Christianity. There is no Bible. Everything is around the cross. So someone missed that. You missed the entire lot, I would say. I'm going to give you a little introduction, and it may take a while, but then let's go deeper into it. Number one, I want to show to you all the four gospels talk about the crucifixion. You can never miss, because sometimes you may think, if all the four people are talking about it, that means that's like a central point for you. Just want to quote the scripture for you so that in case you're searching where it is, if you're turning to Matthew, you'll find in the 27th chapter, 31 to 56 verses. If you are seeing in Mark, it is chapter 15, whole of chapter 15 till 41 verse. And Luke, you will see the same context in Luke chapter 22, and then Luke chapter 23, you will find it. And if you love John, I love John like anything. Why? Because John was there on site. Sometimes you ask the people, tell me, have you been to the White House? I don't go and talk to someone in Japan, how is the White House? I would talk to someone, have you been there in a courtyard? And John is the person who can say the front eyewitness for us. So if you're looking in John will talk in John chapter 18. In fact, he talks in too much of detail, signifying the importance of it. Okay, now that is a portion where you can find. Now let's go into the context. If you want to understand crucifixion is not just, you need to understand the entire 24 hours. Okay, why I call it the 24 hours? That's the entire, through the Passion Week. I know we are today, it's so contextual. We are getting into a Palm Sunday tomorrow, and then we are getting into the Passion Week. Now, interestingly, the context, Jesus, there's a lot of debate on was Jesus crucified on Friday. That's another argument people debate on. I'm not going to answer that question now, but I have more things to tell you. In fact, I want to say, do you know Good Friday was called several years back God's Friday? People didn't like the word God's Friday and they changed into Good Friday. People say, people think they can be good without God. No, it cannot happen. The central word of good is God. So it's God's Friday actually. God's Friday called as Good Friday. Now, what is makes it more special? Actually, the Jesus trial took in two parts. You know what is trial? Where you're placed before a judge to understand and evaluate whether you deserve punishment or not. And this trial happened all through midnight, not through the morning, because keep in mind, Jesus is a very popular person, not some insignificant character. Multitudes followed him, multitudes got saved, and there are two trials that took place. One is called the Jewish trial, the other is the Roman trial. Now, the Jewish trial, it had two parts as well. He shows up, he was taken before the high priest. The high priest emeritus, I would call Annas. Annas is the old high priest who was not serving in office. He's a former high priest. You find that in John chapter 18, verse 12 to 14. You'll find that portion where he is taken first to Annas, and then he directs him to his son-in-law, because Annas is the father-in-law for Caiaphas. Caiaphas is the second trial happens that you find in Mark chapter 14, verses 53 to 65, you can find. Now, and there is a Jewish high court. So, what is a Jewish high court? We will find this word called Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin is nothing but the Jewish high court. It has 71 people inside that, which has the chief priests, elders, and teachers of the law. Like they are the big timers who judge everything that happens for any criminal brought to them. Okay, now the Jewish court comes midnight, say 12 and 1 and 2. Jesus has been interrogated completely, and then they decide, okay, now he has to be taken for a decision to be made, for a punishment to be executed. Jesus has to be taken to the Roman trial. So the Roman trial is very significant. It also has three parts to it, because the first time the preliminary hearing takes place before Pontius Pilate. You know that he's a Roman governor, which happens in Mark chapter 15, and then you find Pilate decides, okay, it's not just me dealing with it. I'm going to send you to the Tetrarch, which is Herod Antipas, who was also in Jerusalem at that time, and he sends to them, and King Herod interrogates him. Luke chapter 23 will talk about it. Now, finally, Herod finds no fault with him, no guilty. He declared as no guilty, and he's brought back to Roman governor Pontius Pilate. So now you would understand the context. It's not just one person deciding, there's a whole group of people deciding, calling out, and it's a very political situation, and it's not an easy time of history. So why am I calling out all these names? You're not talking about a fancy fairy tale. This is very, very real, my friend. That's the context. Okay, let me go into the prophecies. See, why I choose Christianity is one of the reasons is this, because I believe in, tell me someone, a God who can show me who he is and what he has fulfilled. There are 300 prophecies about Jesus coming and Jesus living and dying and resurrecting, and everything about Jesus. Everything about Jesus has been already foretold. Not just first time, even 6,000 years ago, way up in Genesis, he has been forecasted that there is someone coming to crush the head of the serpent, right? And then you also find 700 years back, there was a lot of prophecy about him. There is a prophet, which I get really chilled on my bones when I read Isaiah chapter 53. Isaiah chapter 53 will well up your eyes like anything, my friend. He talks about everything there. What he's going to talk, what he's going to speak, how he's going to die, how he's going to be pierced, everything you can see. See, even if you say, Chris, all these prophecies are good, let's do a mathematical reasoning. I like this part. 1 in 48, if you take a chance, the fulfillment, if you take 48, just only 48 prophecies, the probability of happening, it happening is the chance factor is, say, 1 in 10 chance. If you put the word number 10 on top of it, the probability 157 zeros. What? 157 zeros. The chance of the probability happening is very, very rare. Which God can do that? Tell me which God can do that, and why Jesus did that. And that means it's not a luck, it's not a coincidence, it is a divine hand of God. He is God. He is God. Why not you try that? Now look at that. That's the odd of a single person across the world in history, a single person having, see, one prophecy can get, okay, you fulfill. I'm not saying 48 plus prophecies are tested by probability. There is no chance. There is no chance. That's a probability of divine intervention. So I'm going to call, there are 28 prophecies. In fact, with this, my friends, the group here, last night I shared with them a pre-read on the 28 prophecies that can happen on a 24 hours. What? 28 prophecies that can happen in a 24 hours that happens on a God's Friday or the Good Friday, my friend. Let me call out few, at least the 7, because I love the number 7. So let me just call out, and you can find all the 28 online, but I just want to tell you, the number one that thrills me is the prophecy where you find the Isaiah 53. You can never miss it. He was pierced for our transgressions, and John 19 fulfilled it. John 19:34 has fulfilled it. The second thing I would say is like his clothes were been divided, right? Dividing his clothes. You will find in Psalm 22:18, it got fulfilled. Now the prophecy came out in King David calling in Psalm 22:18. And now it got fulfilled again in Matthew chapter 27, verse 35. And then you find, my God, why have you forsaken me? You know what? King David calls out in Psalm 22, verse 1. Look at that. Even the very statement. Can anything like this kind of precision occur? That is what Jesus can do. The fourth one you can see is John, I am thirsty. John chapter 19, he'll say, I am thirsty. You know what? You should find that prophecy again by King David in Psalm 69, 21. Psalm chapter 69, verse 21. Psalm 22, verse 15. And let's not go more. I mean, I can give you a couple of more. Where Jesus' bones were not broken, right? Jesus' bones were not broken. Not one of his bones will be broken. Where did you find it? You can find that in Psalm 34:20. King David talks about it. And even Exodus, when they celebrate the Passover feast, you know what? Exodus chapter 12, verse 46 will talk about it. All got fulfilled in John 19:36. And I can give one more thing. They will look on him whom they have pierced. Even where people will look is also recorded. Do you know that? It's already recorded. It's recorded in Zechariah chapter 12, verse 10, which got fulfilled in John chapter 19:37. See, I can go deeper, but I just want to set the context. We are talking about a very real person who lived in the history and who has died for you and for me. Let's go a little more. I know I love apologetics. Let's go a little more deeper. I just want to talk about this particular two things, which has come under discussion for so much over the years. This is a book called Quran. In this book, it says surah. Surah is a part of chapter. You find verse number 157. It claims that Jesus only pretended to be dead. What? It says Jesus pretended to be dead. When someone told me this, I was so curious. I said, I invited my friend, please come with me to Matthew chapter 27 and 50. You want to read Matthew chapter 27, 50, Priscilla or anyone? We're going to read some texts and run Matthew chapter 27:50. Matthew chapter 27:50. Go on, please. Mm-hmm. In case you're reading, you're muted. I don't know. 27:50. Okay. Oh, who's reading? Simran, or you're reading, or 27:50?
Okay. And and when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit.
What? He gave up his spirit. They did not take his spirit. I want to make one point very clear. He gave up his spirit. He is not a victim. This is what Vijay we are talking. He is not a victim. He is a victor. He decides when to give up his spirit. Actually, to say the truth, the cross did not take his life. Sometimes even Christians are confused. The cross did not take his life because he decides when to give his life. In fact, Isaiah chapter 53, verse 12 will say, because he willingly poured out his life. He willingly, he willingly gave his spirit. That's what it means. Jesus said, we discussed on this, Jesus said, it is finished, right? And means, and he bowed his head. This is John chapter 19, verse 30. Jesus said, it is finished, and he bowed his head and voluntarily gave up his spirit. This is amplified, we'll talk. Voluntarily gave up his spirit, and that means he decided to give up his life. It's not that he's acting dead, like the surah saying that it is he pretended dead. In fact, there is a Roman soldier who goes and pierces on his right rib cage, just straight to his heart, to declare and they find Jesus already dead. So he's not pretending dead, my friend. This is what I can say. Even a history, not just Bible, even outside Bible will declare the probability and the precision of his death. Okay, there is another debate. There is another debate which says Jesus was drugged. Oh, really? Jesus was drugged? Okay, come with me to Mark chapter 15, verse 23. Mark chapter 15, verse 23. You want to read that, my friend? Yeah, go on. Mark 15:23. Mark chapter 15, verse 23. Someone there, I know I'm making you read faster. Okay, go on. Mark 15:23. Okay.
They offered him wine
Yes.
drugged with myrrh, but he refused it.
Now, when you
That
see that when the wine with gall or myrrh, some text will say myrrh, some will say gall. Now, when you see he refused it, in fact, it is a narcotic element. It is a narcotic element that can cause people to numb the pain. Early in his it's a 6 hour suffering. Early in Mark 15:23, you find the wine mixed with gall or myrrh that Jesus earlier has refused to drink. In Matthew records, Mark records, but Jesus did not drink it. Why? Because he wants to feel the pain for you and for me. And if somebody comes and says Jesus was drugged, oh, really? No, he did not take an anesthetic painkiller and then he did not. People sometimes come up with these kind of theories. No, he was not drugged. My Bible says he refused to drink. Okay, I think I should stop there and get into the fact. Let me give you some hard facts. I'm going to give you 10 facts, and this 10 facts really jostled me. It could jostle you or it could chill you. It really chilled me. I just want to tell you that. Okay, come with me. Fact number one. This fact is very interesting fact. Let's go why crucifixion, the punishment of crucifixion. In fact, I want to tell you, crucifixion, the whole punishment category, those days they didn't have guns. Keep in mind, we are not talking about a gun generation. If Jesus is born this time, this period of time, probably he was gunned and shot dead, right? Even through the times of the Paul was beheaded, right? And you can see the Romans practiced this particular execution method. It's called the crucifixion. Now, crucifixion is a practice. It's a very painful process, very painful, slow process. It's like if you crucify someone on the cross, on the beam, it's a wooden beam. If you do that, people don't die immediately. People die actually 2 to 3 days they can hang on the same place, on the same wooden beam for 3 days. And what I mean by that, it's a very slow process because it can cause suffocation. You end up not breathing, you become dehydrated, and then you end up become exhausted, and then you die. So you're not going to die immediately. Probably if you kill somebody with a spear, it's easy to die. But Jesus chose crucifixion because he was born in such a time, say through the Roman history. Do you know there are 5,000 people who are crucified by the Romans? More people. But my Bible doesn't, or history doesn't remember those 5,000 people. But Romans practiced this as a method, as a capital punishment across the history. Anyone who has been like not following Roman, or they're brought into judgment, they are been crucifixion was the recommendation. In fact, Mark chapter 15, 44, you want to read that? Mark 15, 44. I want you to read quickly and faster. Mark chapter 15, 44. You're muted.
Yes, I could do. Pilate couldn't believe that Jesus was already dead. So he called for the Roman officer and asked if he had died yet.
Now they couldn't believe, come on, we have killed 5,000 people, crucified 5,000 people. It will take 3 days for him to die. How can this man die in less than 6 hours? How can he die in less than 6 hours? And in fact, only very basest or very wicked people are chosen for crucifixion. Cheapest or the most unworthy is chosen for crucifixion, not a noble person. In fact, if you're a Roman, you cannot be crucified. So it's like not for the elite, it's for the least and the cheapest and the unworthy. Now and in fact, I want you to understand, when you hang on the cross for 3 days, what happens? I don't know when you're tied completely, the birds of the air can come and peck and eat them, right? Because the blood is oozing and everything. So they get like the eyes get gouged out, everything happens, and all that happens on over the 3 days. That's why it's a very painful. Public humiliation is very high because they are not going to be dressed up. I want to tell you, whether you know that, maybe you see images of Jesus being crucified where Jesus has a nice loincloth. No, he's stripped naked completely. Nothing on his body. I was just thinking today morning, when I was just thinking, as I was meditating on it, the posture is, if you put two legs on top of each other, you can't even see your lower part of your body, because you're just stripped naked, but one over the other, one leg over the other. Your pelvis area doesn't get exposed. So you're stripped naked, not a loincloth. You could see a lot of images today with white cloth around. That's not Jesus. Please don't get misled by all that. Okay, that's the first fact. I have 10 facts. Okay, second fact, there's the cross. Now the cross did not kill Jesus. That's the argument here. The cross did not kill Jesus because Jesus died before that. If you're on the cross, you should take 2 to 3 days to die, isn't it? But the cross did not kill Jesus. By the way, if you're curious about, like me, thinking how much is the weight of the cross, it's like 40 pounds. That's like 18 kilograms. It's like a huge rice bag. If you carry like a 20 kilos rice bag, if you carry, you can just see that you need to carry it that amount of weight. And the cross or the wooden beam, it's made of wood. It can be like a T. It's not like a perfect cross like how we see today. It can be in the form of a T. It can be in the form cross. Different kinds of crosses are there. It can be in the form of an X or a Y or an I. It has the traditional one is what we are trying to see right now. So normally the person who is condemned is supposed to carry this across till the place of execution. Here it is the place of skull, which is called in Calvary. In Latin, it's called Calvary. In Greek, it is called cranium, right? Cranium. I hope I pronounced rightly. Okay, that's on the cross, my friend. So the cross is very real. And by the way, when they're carrying the cross, it's not just carrying like this. Your hands are tied to the cross because the person is already weak. So the cross should not move. So many times Jesus falls to the ground. Now the thing is, he needs to lift up. His hands are tied. So he can't even do anything. The beam is tied to the hands. You get what I'm saying? So it's tied on like a nape, tight. Now think about that. Now, thirdly, I want to tell you it's five major wounds. Five major wounds. Sometimes as a kid, you would see a movie on the Passion of Christ. You think, what are those? The five major wounds are like when you see your left hand, right hand, left feet, right feet, and that makes the four major wounds. And then the plus the spear. You know that Roman soldier? I told you about the Roman soldier who just speared, piercing through his right rib cage. That is the fifth one. So this all started at 9 a.m. when all these things got completely set up. Now, there are Bible scholars who say there are totally 153 wounds, 153 wounds which cannot be stitched. If Jesus wants to go through a surgery, and then Jesus is alive and we picked him like that, you can't even stitch the wounds. It's 153 wounds like that. My friend, that's on the five major wounds, and you can never forget the element of that wounds. Okay, now let's go into the spear a bit. I felt the spear is very important part because only John talks about it. Only John's gospel talks about it. Matthew, Mark, Luke doesn't covers it. And John really saw that. John really saw that. You want to read John chapter 19, verse 34. I'm going to ask you to read a little bit more. John 19:34. Faster. John 19:34. Yes? 19:34. You're muted, Simran.
One of the soldiers, however, pierced his side with the spear, and immediately blood and water flowed out.
In fact, some translation will say gushed out. Water and blood gushed out. And that's what you saw. This Roman soldier was sent by Pontius Pilate. He was amazed, how could he die? So this is like whether you're dead, you're checking whether someone died or not. Today people go and check, right? You would go and check whether they're breathing or not. If your grandmom is passing, you will go near and check, oh, is she breathing? That's what you would do. You see the heart going up and down or something like that. For Jesus, you know what he checked? For Jesus, it was the dead check. The dead check was Jesus was a spear. And when the interesting part there, before he could do that, verse 33 will tell you he was already dead. He was already dead. Put a big circle on that. So that means the cross did not kill Jesus. You know what killed Jesus? It's much more than that. He was been immensely flogged and he chose to die. And when the spear went through, it is very, very hard. When you see that, it just rips the rib gauge and hits the lungs and then pierce into the heart. So it is, in medical terms, if you can call it, pericardium, which means it's like your ruptured heart. So it's like a ruptured heart. Someone dying of a heart attack will know today. The heart dies normally is different, but here the spear goes right into a heart and not inside the cross. You just understand that the rib cage, the lungs, and then the heart itself. Okay, let's go into the nails a bit. In fact, people study a lot about these nails. I want to talk to you about the nails. It's very powerful to me as well. By the way, the nails are made of iron. If you're thinking what it is made, it's a heavy wrought iron. Were driven through the nails. Some of the times you see pictures like this. I don't know whether you have, if you go to Europe and all those places, you will see a lot of pictures of Jesus imagery of the wound and the nails, right? And I see sometimes they give a false picture because they put the wound on the palm of the hand. No, my friend, it's not there. The nails, where it went exactly into the wrist. The wrist, the wrist, both the wrist, because your wrist and my wrist has a special capability. When your wrist is put on, nailed to something, it can hold your body. It can hold your body. Likewise, sometimes some pictures shows as if it is on the feet. No, it's not the feet, it's the ankle. If you put both the ankles, your legs together, the ankle, so there is the soldier has to be really smart to find the typical hole between the wrist so that the nail can go into it and the criminal on the person who is judged can hang on it for 2 to 3 days. So it's a very strategic way. It's not something like, okay, Jesus got punctured on his hands. It's not like that. It's a hole that goes into his wrist and the nail goes into it. In fact, I was curious about this nail. It's an iron nail, my friend. And how big it is? It is big like a 7 inches. What is 7 inches for somebody to remember? It's like your size of your butter knife. Your butter knives, if you're using it for your bread, that's the size. It can go inside that, or you're like a size of a banana size. That's a size for a visual understanding of the length of this 7 inches, 5 to 7 inches. And the thickness is about 3/8 inch of a square. So it's like pretty huge nail that can hold the whole body up on the air on the beam, just two beams with vertical and horizontal. Now keep this in mind so that it holds the body in steady position so it doesn't rips off the beam and the person is get held tight to it. And when what happens when the person is hanging on these two wrists and two ankles, what happens? The person will have a hard time breathing. So when they want to breathe, the air goes up and down. That's when they would really break, exhausted, suffocated, dehydrated, and then they cannot do it anymore. And that's the situation is called asphyxiation, which means the person gets a difficulty or challenge of having more oxygen and then could not push anymore, and then they pass away. Now, I know, Priscilla, you were asking about the sixth fact is nothing but the breaking of the legs. Now, you know
Mhm.
what? Turn with me to John chapter 19, verse 31. You gave the answer to that question. John chapter 19, 31. Whoever's there, please read fast. John chapter 19, 31. Mm-hmm.
It was the day of preparation, and the Jewish leaders didn't want the bodies hanging there the next day, which was the Sabbath. So they asked Pilate to hasten their death, or by ordering that their legs are broken, then their bodies could be taken down.
So they want to hasten death because Sabbath is said to be a holy, especially Passover Sabbath. It's said to be the most holy day, and then you don't want to make it impure or you unholy or the sacred becoming desecrated because the body is hanging there. So the Jews go and ask the Pontius Pilate, the governor, please break the legs. And you know what happens? When they come to Jesus, that's when they find he's already dead. So what is breaking the legs? That's when they would say, if we break the legs already, what happens? The person can die faster. They need not struggle to breathe hard. They cannot breathe anymore. And then death happens immediately. And immediately they give up life. But for Jesus, they found he's already dead. So he did not break, his legs were not broken. Remember the prophecy I told you in Exodus at
Mhm.
the beginning? His legs were not broken, as well as in Psalm, we read that. Okay, my friend, I'm going to go into the seventh fact. This is very, very moving part. You need to understand how this entire 6 hours goes because if somebody doesn't, I put a little table in my own notes here. I put a little cheat sheet like a note to understand what happens. But today I want to tell you, I've sat in many churches these days. Today, this concept of uh, reminiscing the sufferings of Jesus has been taken for with a lot of indifference. People don't even take it with that kind of deep meditation. I'm sorry with if you are part of that such kind of churches, please don't go there. I would encourage. They are just playing some movies and they are say playing some snippets and then they're trying to meditate. No, my friend, go to the word now. And this is six hours. Now let me walk you through through the entire 6 hours for you, at least like a broad snapshot. The entire trial happened. The Jewish trial happened through midnight. That I told you, right? But 6 o'clock, what happens? The trial comes to Pontius Pilate. That you'll find in Mark chapter 15. You'll find that only at 6 o'clock after daylight could a legal trial takes place for death sentence. So that means the entire 6 hours. I want you to understand. break it into 3 hours, 3 hours. The first 3 hours, you see Jesus always talking and praying and thinking of other people. He says, Father, forgive them. He says that on the cross, right? And he has a little dialogue with the thief next to him. So his conversations were all about, the first 3 hours were with all about others. He was thinking about others. And you take the last second part of the second half of the 3 hours, it is all about himself. It is all about a prayer about himself. I know most churches today meditate on the 7 words of the cross. I would just say, just go deeper than that. It means, what is that Jesus was trying to say in the first 3 hours, and what is Jesus trying to say in the second 3 hours? Okay, let's go into the first 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock is when that crucifixion, because my Bible says, Mark chapter 15:25. You want to read that? Mark chapter 15:25. Pastor. Mark chapter 15:25. You're muted.
It was 9 o'clock in the morning when they crucified him. A sign announced the charge against him. It read, "The King of the Jews."
So 9 o'clock, it's very clear. The Jewish timeline there, it says third hour, which is 9 a.m. And then verse 33 will say, which is till 12 noon. 12 noon, that's when major things happen. I know recently we all had an eclipse. People were asking, go and see the red blood moon, go and see the solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, and all that kind of thing happening in this 2026. On 2000 years before, my friend, there was a deep black midnight experience, an eclipse of the entire sun, no light from 12 in the afternoon till 3. So that's what you read in verse 33. I'm not going to go center there, but that's what the deep eclipse that happens. Darkness covered the whole world, not just Jerusalem. Not just people, if they were in India, people were like, oh my God, it's 12, but it looks like midnight. Yes, because Jesus is crucified. Jesus is crucified. That's what happened to earth. And then at 9 o'clock, ninth hour, which is 3 p.m., at the 3 p.m., that's when they hear Jesus saying, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani, right? That means, my God, why have you forsaken me? That's what he's saying. What does it mean that? He's saying, Lord, where are you? It's almost, he's coming to the tail end where he's not able to breathe anymore. It's almost coming, it's like the last left blood, and that's when he says it is finished. And then even above, when he about to say the last line was, into your hands I give my spirit, right? That is nothing but Psalm 31 and 5. Now Psalm 31 and 5, to a Jewish mom, that's like a prayer. Every good night prayer, their mom Mother Mary would have taught him this prayer, Psalm 31 and 5, because every Jewish boy would say that, into your hands I give my spirit. In fact, that's Jesus' last recollection of the words before he could sign off from the cross. And my friend, that I want to tell you, sometimes even you and me go through a lot of suffering and sorrow. When you're in a deep sorrow, what comes to you? You ask this question, why? Why, God? Why me? Why not them? Why me? Why should I go through? What did I do? Now, I want to tell you, the King of the Jews also has the same question. Why? Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. Why have you forsaken me? My God, why have you forsaken me? Now, I just want you to understand that that's a very powerful hour-wise 6 hours, but Jesus died before that. For the rest of the guys, they were broken. Their legs were broken. Having said this, I want to tell you, when Jesus died on the cross, miracles took place. Sometimes we miss that element. And I want you to tell you, each miracle is something very powerful. But I want to call out 2 miracles to you. One miracle, Jerusalem had the biggest, the huge temple. People are there gathered. It is said close to 2 million people come there for the Passover feast. So Jerusalem is jam-packed. People are packed from across Europe, across Middle East. Everybody is jam-packed to Jerusalem because they have come for the Passover festival. You know what happened? They were sitting in the temple, the most holy of holies. If you know the tabernacle in the book of Exodus and Leviticus, you can read that. The whole outer court, the holy place, and the most holy place. There is a huge curtain separating the holy of holies from most holy place, right? Inside the most holy place, you find the Ark of the Covenant. Don't forget that. Probably if somebody is so curious to see that, I would say go to Pennsylvania today. There's a model there. People try to explain that in there. I've seen a real model of the tabernacle there. It's very good. You should see that. And any synagogue will have that, the most holy place. Now what happened, there is a curtain, and I want to tell you, when you may easily read, oh my god, the temple curtain just tore. It's not a tailor from Canada went and cut it from bottom to up. It is top to bottom. So that means nobody can climb. The size of the curtain, I want to tell you, it's a 60 feet curtain, not, it's 60 feet tall and 4 inches thickness. You know what? 4 inches thickness. Tell me which tailor can go and cut it. It's the hand of God. You know what God did? When Jesus died on the cross, he broke the separation between the Holy of Holies and the holy place, because he gives direct access to anyone and everyone. My Sikh friend who is listening, she can have an access. My Buddhist friend who needs Jesus, she can have an access. My Hindu friend needs access. Now there is a direct access. You don't need anyone. In fact, I know sometimes there is a lot of belief that sometimes you need a pope, you need a intermediate saint to go for you. I know my Catholic friends will just believe my prayers have to be taken by a saint, because this curtain is broken, it's ripped, it's torn, no more. You don't need anybody. You have a direct access, because my Bible says in 1 Peter 2:9, he calls you, you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, people declaring the praises of him. You understand that you have a direct access. So my friend, if you're thinking some god man can help you, no, you can have direct access. You are called directly. So that's what the Catholic or the Hindu friends, I would say, you want to understand this powerful message. You have a direct communication and access to God. And interestingly, we all fear death, right? I know we worry about death. But you know what happened at the time when Jesus died? Turn with me to Matthew chapter 27, verse 51 and 52. You want to read Matthew chapter 27, 51 and 52. That's a powerful thing that happened at that time. Go on, please. Mm-hmm.
At that moment, the curtain in the sanctuary of the temple was torn into two from top to bottom. The earth shook, rocks split apart, and the tombs opened. The bodies of many godly men and women who had died were raised from the dead.
Look at that. When somebody dies, it's like all the tombs, like tombs across GTA. Sometimes like you open, all the tombs open, and all the people, your grandmother, grandfather, whoever believed in the Lord, who are righteous. My Bible says whoever the righteous fallen asleep were brought forth. They got resurrected. They came alive. Sometimes people think like that's a very scary moment, very eerie moment, I would say, because one part of the city is crying and they see the tombs are opened and everybody is coming alive. Many of them don't focus on this biggest miracle, but that's a huge miracle, like Lazarus, right? Now if you see that, what is the point God is trying to say? That he is saying he defeats death. He defeats death, hell, and grave. That's what's the point there. You read that in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 55, where Paul writes, "Death, where is your sting?" So Jesus' death brought life to the people in the tombs. That's what I want to tell you. So that's the biggest fact you cannot miss. Let's go into the fact number 9. Fact number 9 is the landscape. I want to tell you, sometimes we think it's only a physical violence and physical trauma. No, it is a lot of psychological as well. Look at that, because they were haters completely. Mark chapter 15, verse 16. You want to read that, Simran? Mark 15, 16? Faster. 15, 16. Mm-hmm. You're muted. Mark 15, 16.
The soldiers took Jesus into the courtyard of the governor's headquarters and called out the entire regiment. Oh, sorry, 15, I just missed.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. 15, 16, and call the entire regiment. I was curious on this. You know what? This happens at Pontius Pilate's palace, which is called the Praetorium. The Praetorium. Now, this place, if you think how many soldiers were there, there are close to 600 soldiers. So Jesus was stripped naked there. Jesus was put the crown of thorns there. Jesus was booed, bullied, whatever, insulted, derided, mocked, whatever you can say happened. Not by one soldier, spat on his face. Not one soldier, 600 soldiers, my friend. Think about that. It's like a lot of people. You don't even know who's hitting you. And that's when they ask you, tell me who hit you right now? Who slapped you right now? Because so many people are really smashing him, crushing him, persecuting him. In fact, my Bible says in Mark chapter 15:29, even the passers, right? People, the bystanders, people who are crossing by, they would do something like, okay, oh, you promised this, you prophesied this. Why don't you do this? Come down from the cross. And not only that, when he is at the cross, even there was another thief who said that, hey, where is your kingdom? He smirked, he laughed, he mocked. Verse 32, you will see that. And the chief priests and the elders, everyone did that, my friend. Everyone did. In fact, Luke chapter 22:65 will say, and they were saying many other evil things against him, blaspheming, that is, speaking sacrilegiously and abusively about him, which is like gross irreverence to him. They were talking. Now, I want to tell you, that's like today people talk about mental health, psychological trauma. Now, tell me, where is this level, the gravity of what we are talking? Today, even a little slur can make someone so upset. You should have a conversation with Jesus. Jesus, you don't understand me. If you say that, he will say, come, welcome with me to Mark chapter 15. He will say, he will show you how he was treated, a landscape of being mocked, insulted, or whatever you call spitting and slapping was so constant. You can find it again and again. It, like maybe his face was dripping with spit. I can say that, dripping with spit. And also his clothes. He was given a robe called the purple robe. You can see that in Mark chapter 15 verse 17. And a crown of thorns was given. And then you can see that was they want to decorate him or adorn him as a royal attire, mocking him. But then the final insult can be where Jesus was put with two robbers. Today, you don't even want to be identified with certain people. Today, I've seen people like, oh no, I don't want to associate with that. Ask Jesus. He was placed with two robbers. One, look at the strategic way. They didn't squish the two robbers to one cluster. They kept one on the side, on the right, one on the left, keeping Jesus at the center, ensuring that he's placed with the robbers, amidst the robbers. And that speaks the truth. He was identified with the sinners, right? Finally, in the 10th fact, I want to talk to you about this 10th fact, which will move you more powerfully, the scourging or the flogging. We think like, Jesus got flogged. I was explaining to you guys sometime back, the flogging means it's like seriously, severely whipped. The Roman whip is like many leather thongs. At the end of the thong, it will have something of metal, bone, glass. It will hang on number of all those lead. All these materials are just hanging out of the lash. So when you really whip it, it will rip the entire skin, your intestine, your body, everything. Now, somebody asked me here, how many times was he whipped? Oh my God, it's not a Jewish whipping, because a Jewish whipping is like 40 maximum minus 39, which Paul endured. But for Jesus, it is a whipping, which is a whip with pieces of bone, metal, and at the ends, he is whipped completely, unlimited, no end, because until the best way to explain, until the Roman soldier's hand hurts. There are 600 soldiers, my friend. So one person's hand hurt, the next soldier would be coming on his duty to do that. That's called the Roman flogging. With several stripes of leather, he was beaten continuously. Now, having said this, I just not come to the sermon yet. This is the context where we are when we just say, is it real or real? You and me today, if we need to travel 2,000 years before, let's ask this, all of us in this room. I just want to ask you, let's go 2,000 years. If you were with Jesus at the time, what is your response? I want to talk to you about 7 people, 7 responses you can see, and you can choose which response you want to be identified with. I will go faster, I will try, but there are 7 responses, my friend. The number one is the person whom we spoke about. You want to read the similar, which is Caiaphas, which I would call it let me put all the 7 responses to you so that it's easy for you to follow. Okay, the 7 responses. The first person is Caiaphas. Caiaphas, I would say the Caiaphas, the hater or the Antichrist, a very satanic person. The second is crowd pleaser, which is Pontius Pilate. The third is craving for miracles, miracle seeker, Herod. And the fourth is compelled Simon. The fourth C is compelled Simon. The fifth is the crying women who are crying all around him. And then the sixth is the criminal postponer, like people who the criminal on the cross, but how he is a postponer. And then finally is the courageous disciple, John. Let's jump in faster so that it's easy for you to follow. Okay, number one, if you can see that, this person, Caiaphas. Now turn with me to read Caiaphas. You want to read Caiaphas, John chapter 11, 49 to 51. John chapter 11, 49 to 51. Who's reading? John 11. John chapter 11, 49 to 51. Go on, please. If you're reading, you're muted.
Yes, so Caiaphas, who was high priced at that time, said, "You don't know what you are talking about. You don't realize that it's better for you that one man should die for the people than for the whole nation to be destroyed." He did not say that, he didn't say this is on his own. As high priest at the time, he was led to proficiency that Jesus would die for the entire nation. And not only for that nation, but to bring together and unite all the children of God scattered around the world. So from the time on, the Jewish leaders began to plot Jesus' death. Should I continue?
Yeah. Now, Caiaphas is the most important character. In fact, you cannot miss. If you want to understand Caiaphas, I would say you should go back to how Jesus, right from the day he was born, he was targeted to be killed, and who was aiming behind that entire plot is none other than Satan, who doesn't want Jesus to be born. Number one, to be raised and then to die on the cross. So he doesn't want him to die. Even in Gethsemane, he was really pushing hard, and he was saying, like, Peter saying, Lord, don't go to the cross. Cross is not for you. So every time, remember, almost 5 times Jesus was pushed to the corner to be killed, but so that he can be killed otherwise rather than on the cross. But I want to tell you, Caiaphas was used by Satan. So Caiaphas, his response is a hater. You read, where Simran was reading about this, when you see that, he was saying one man's death is the most expedient. One man should die for the people. So now he decided, okay, this guy has to die, but he don't know how he should be killed. How he should be killed. That's a problem for Caiaphas. Caiaphas is none other than the great high priest, who's said to be the most religious person in the world, right? At that time, he lived in AD 18 to 36. Mark chapter 14 will talk about Mark chapter 14, 53 to 65 will talk about Caiaphas. And his father-in-law is Annas. So the second most Jewish trial took place with Caiaphas. And Caiaphas was the most important turning point who led him to Pilate. So in fact, Jesus calls him more sinful. People were saying that he's a more sinful than anyone else, because he delivered Jesus to Pilate. Okay. Now look at that. There are 2 problems. Now you want the person to die, but you don't know how to arrest him. Because when you have to arrest him, 2 million people, too many people, followers, multitudes following, Jesus is like a honeybee. Everybody wants to come with Jesus. Now, when do they find someone to kill Jesus? So that's when Caiaphas engages with Jesus' own best friend or the disciple Judas. You understand? And Judas tells him, where is your guru spends the night? In the mornings, he's so busy. If we touch Jesus in the morning, there could be a riot. So tell us when we can touch Jesus. And then at the middle of the night, where Judas kisses. You remember We studied about Judas kissing Jesus in the Gethsemane, right? Now, look at that. That's what they find. The first problem solved, how to arrest him. Now, the second problem is, okay, I arrested Jesus, but now how do I pin him with a problem? Pin him with a statement that is equal to death. See, you can say that he has done this problem, this sin, this punishment, all kind of allegations, but he needs to be pinned to an allegation that could be causing death. In fact, from a Jewish guideline, there are only few things. There are 15 things that could make that would be equal to a death penalty. For example, one is like adultery. Any sexual sin is taken as immediate death penalty because they can be stoned. Idolatry, anyone bowing down to anyone, any other person, would be equal to death penalty. Now tell me something. Jesus, they could not find anything on Jesus. In fact, they are struggling to get witnesses. They could not find any witnesses, and that's when they find Caiaphas engages in a dialogue, and he says, tell me, who are you? That's what you find his whole dialogue in John chapter 18. You'll find that John chapter 18:13. You want to read that? John 18:13. Go on, please. John 18:13. John 18:13. Yes.
First, they took him to Annas, since he was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest at that time.
And you can find that in even in the high priest questions Jesus. Jesus answered him, I've spoken. Why do you ask me? Ask those who have heard. Jesus talks to him. When he said these things, one of the officers even beats him up, slaps on his face. So I want to tell you that he is an accuser. Today, I want to tell you the response which Caiaphas did was accusing Jesus, finding allegations on Jesus, and then he could not find good witnesses, and then he's forced into an answer. Jesus was forced into an answer, and that's when he says, are you the king of the Jews? And Jesus says, I am. And that's when he says, the high priest, rips open his whole, cries out and says, it's blasphemy. That's what you can read in this particular verse. Now, my friend, I want to tell you, the Jewish law cannot give death penalty because they are under the colony of Romans. So they need the Rome's trial as well. That is Pontius Pilate's trial as well. So they cannot give him a death penalty. That was a problem with Caiaphas. And you know what he does? I want you to look at that in Luke chapter 23, 2. You want to read that? Luke chapter 23, verse 2. That's when the whole problem of blasphemy gets changed. You know how people try to lie and tweak the whole problem? Luke chapter 23, 2. Go on.
They begin to state their case. This man has been leading our people astray by telling them not to pay their taxes to the Roman government and by claiming he's the Messiah, a king.
Now you see that the whole dynamics, the allegation changed from blasphemy to treason, because by Roman law, the Roman government will not punish and give death penalty for blasphemy. They can only give a death penalty for something for treason, where somebody says, oh, this man wants to be the king of the Jews. That means you're going to be another king taking the place of King Herod, because King Herod is the king, the local king, governing Judea and other locations, right? So, my friend, are you a Caiaphas? Think about it. Bringing an accuser or an antichrist mentality within you. I have seen people who don't like anything to do with Jesus. Think about it. There is a second C we are going to talk about, this person called compromiser. The compromiser, who is none other than, or a people pleaser, Pontius Pilate. You know who is this person? He's a Roman governor who stayed between AD 26 to 36, and his official place is in Caesarea. But then he has come to Jerusalem because of this huge Passover, and people are just in and around him. And then he wants to ensure that this Roman rule and law and order is maintained. The first thing you read about him, I want you to, the key verse for us is Mark 15:12. You want to read Mark 15:12? What makes me say that he's a compromiser? Mark chapter 15, verse 12. Are you reading, Simran?
Yes.
15:12.
So Pilate asked them, "Then what should I do with this man you call the king of the Jews?"
Now he's asking, what shall I do? And he's going with with what the audience is asking them. Verse 15. You want to read verse 15?
So to pacify the crowd, Pilate released Barabbas to them. He ordered Jesus flogged with the lead-tipped whip, then turned him over to the Roman soldiers to be crucified.
The catchword is, so Pilate wishing to satisfy the crowd. Are you a crowd pleaser? I want to ask you, if you and me are in that place, do you want to satisfy Jesus, or you want to satisfy the people around you? You want to satisfy your friend, you want to satisfy your family, you want to satisfy everyone else other than Jesus? Then you should have checked with how did Pilate struggled. Now, what did he do? I want you to understand this man had a genuine interest. He found that he was not guilty. Jesus is not guilty. He knew Jesus is not guilty because my Bible says for three times, for three times, Luke chapter 23, verse 22 will tell you. You want to read Luke chapter 23, 22, which says for three times, he said, like, this man is not guilty, this man is not guilty, so please don't do. You know what happened? 23:22. Are you there?
Yes. For the third time he demanded, "Why? What crime has he committed? I have found no reason to sentence him to death, so I will have him flogged and then I will release him."
I will have him flogged and release him. He is saying, I don't find any problem with him. So, first attempt, he said, he goes in and out of his palace. Actually, he goes inside and comes outside. Luke puts it very detailed. I like the way he goes. He shows like he goes and talks to Jesus and comes back. He goes up, in and out. And then he says, okay, I'll flog him now. In fact, he's not even convicted yet. He was illegally flogged, and then he's flogged. I told you what is a Roman flogging, and then he brings them back. See, he's so weak. He's not the king of the Jews. He's not harmless. He's no guilty. Three times, not one time, three times. And you know what happens? In fact, he has a chance to hear the gospel from Jesus. But what makes me say that? He asked them, Jesus, this is John chapter 18, well, 36 to 38. I have no time, but you can see that Jesus, Roman question is, or the Pilate's question is, what about your kingdom? Where is your kingdom? My kingdom is not of this world, and my kingdom is, where is your kingdom? Right? And he says, my kingdom is not of this world. He says, and Pilate said, that you are a king? You are a king? And he says, yes. You say, yes, I am a king. And now when he says that, this is why I was born, and for this I have come into the world to testify to the truth. And you know what Pilate's answer is? What is the truth? He forgets the point. The man 6 feet tall is the truth. Because Jesus says in John chapter 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Now, he didn't understand what is the truth. I am the truth. So I feel there's a chance for him to know the gospel, but Pilate missed the game completely. Pilate missed the game, and he goes out immediately and he says to the crowd, hey, this guy is very good. This person is very good, but there is one person I can let you go. His name is Barabbas. He's a zealot. He's a terrorist. He did insurrection and murder against the Roman government. I'm willing to, if you want this Jesus, in fact, Barabbas, some gospel, you'll find the word Jesus Barabbas, you'll find the name Barabbas, son of Abba, that means. Now, do you want this Jesus Barabbas, or you want Jesus the Nazarene to be released? And everybody, the crowd says, crucify, crucify, and there's a non-stop uproar there. But what I want you to know is, he tried all the things possible for 3 times. You know what happened? What is the compromising moment? You may be a great Christian, my friend. You may think, oh, only Pilate had this problem. I tell you, even you and me can have this problem. When you are faced with a situation, What is your response? What is Pilate's problem? When these people when he comes and says, no, he's not guilty, and what the people says in verse 12. You want to read that verse 12? That's very, very turning point. John chapter 19, verse 12. John 19, verse 12.
Then Pilate tried to release him, but the Jewish leaders shouted, "If you release this man, you are no friend of Caesar. Anyone who declares himself a king is a rebel against Caesar."
And you'll find the word "from then on," when Pilate sought to release him, but the Jews cried out, "From then on." Put a big circle there. Then on. That's the turning point. From then on, Pilate sought to release him, but the Jews cried out, "If you release, you're not Caesar's friend." It's like you're saying, if you do this, you're not your boss. Your boss is like, Tiberius Caesar sits out of Rome, so you're not a real Roman, you're anti-Roman. So they're kind of blackmailing and threatening him. They'll go and, smear his name, his reputation as a ruler, as a Roman. And in fact, Pilate's career, if you know a little bit of history of Pilate did not come to this position easily. Somebody who has come to the career top, very hard, very laborious way. And he was a slave who came into the country as a slave, and then how he slowly came to the career as a governor. And over time, somebody is trying to say, we will smear your name, we will go and report to Caesar, you're not a friend of Caesar, and all that. So that's when he says, oh my God, my position is more important. My job is more important. I am the governor. I cannot give my position for anyone. That's the compromising moment, my friend. You and me can be compromising. Think about it. And in fact, this same Pontius Pilate is known for 3,000 crucifixions he has done. His record shows 3,000 crucifixions of Jews he has done. So it is not a big deal for him. That's why he says, I have the power to I can crucify people, I can release people. He talks about himself. In fact, I should say he salute his wife. His wife sends a message to him as he was talking. You'll find the wife sending the message in Matthew chapter 27, verse 24. You will find that he says, that man is a righteous man. I am innocent, but that man, a righteous man, do not do anything with him. Have gained nothing, but rather that, don't do anything with that man. Now, what does it mean? He gets an alert. He's been pushed with an alert. That's when he says, okay, I'm going to wash my hands. I'm going to wash my hands. I don't want to do anything. Now, I want to tell you, that's what the compromising. Have you seen some people? They don't take a decision, yes or no, and they just compromise because they know the truth, but then the truth is known. What's the truth? He knows the truth, but he didn't take the decision. Are you one of them? Think about it. History will remember Pontius Pilate, how we remember Mary, because your Nicene Creed and your Apostolic Creed, which we read, you will find the word Pontius. He suffered under Pontius Pilate. You can never miss. How did he die? Do you know he committed suicide? And that was a pathetic death of Governor Pontius Pilate. You can never miss him, my friend. Okay, let's run faster in the last few minutes. The third person, the third C, which you can never miss, is this person who's craving for miracle. There is a man called the king Herod Antipas. He is the most wicked king who lived in between 4 BC and AD 39. His father is Herod the Great. You remember the Herod the Great who killed 200 male babies alongside Jesus when Jesus was in Bethlehem. Don't forget all that. That's his father. So, in fact, Herod loves entertainment. You remember he also beheaded John the Baptist for a dance, for a seductive dance by the little girl who wanted not a little girl, but a seductive woman who wanted that head of John the Baptist for calling it out. He is called Herod Antipas, the Tetrarch, actually. He rules Judea and the Sea of Galilee region. Now, what happens is Luke chapter 23, 7. I want you to read that. Luke chapter 23, verse 7. 23, 7. And when he learned that Jesus belonged to Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him over to Herod, and what happened? He was in Jerusalem at the time. Even Herod was in Jerusalem at the time. In fact, Herod longed to see Jesus. Herod longed to see Jesus. My Bible says he was long desired to see Jesus because he had heard about him and he was hoping to see some sign. You know what sign? Miracles. He wanted some miracle from Jesus. I have known many Christians today who want the crown, who want a miracle, but they don't want the cross. They don't want anything on suffering. They want only miracles. They want to be a miracle baby. Always miracle, miracle. Lord bless me. Lord heal me. Lord do this. Lord do that. They want to use Jesus like a ATM machine, but they don't want the cross. Are you a response like Herod? Herod wanted a miracle. He's a miracle craver. In fact, my Bible says he didn't know who he was. He was so curious because he was longing to see Jesus. He had an identity crisis because he had long hours of chat with John the Baptist. So my Bible says, Luke 13:31, he says, there was a context where the disciples will come and tell Jesus, get away from here. Herod wants to kill you. So Herod was always looking out for Jesus. Who is this Jesus? I thought I killed John the Baptist. Did John the Baptist come alive? Who is this man? He was like really thinking. And now he wants to see, when he's given a chance to see Jesus, he thought he will bring him in his court and he will do some miracle in his courtyard and do something like a magical thing. That's what Herod expected. Using Jesus as an entertainment and recreation. Are you using Jesus like that, my friend? You're a Herod. You're a Herod. You cannot. My Jesus is not an entertainment. Sometimes people go to church for entertainment, for listening to music and therapy. Seriously? Jesus is much more than that. He is not he's not in an entertainment business. And if you think like that, that is a Herod mentality. Because my verse 12 says, on that day, Herod and Pilate became friends with each other. I want to tell you, sometimes people can get very interested about Jesus. I've seen in many places, people get very interested about Jesus. Tell me more about Jesus. That is very nice. People get interested. People want to know more head knowledge. Have you seen that? They want to know more head knowledge about Jesus, but they don't want a transformation. What Jesus wants is your heart, my friend. He wants your heart, not just doing a miracle business. Now let's go into the fourth C. The fourth C is Cyrene the Simon. You know why I call Cyrene the Simon? There is a Simon the Cyrene came in Mark chapter 15:21. You want to read that, Simran, faster? Mark 15:21. We'll go faster. So please bear with me for a few more minutes. Mark 15:21. Yes.
A passerby named Simon, who was from Cyrene, was coming in from the courtside just then, and then the soldiers forced him to carry Jesus' cross.
Look at that. Put a big circle there called forced. In my Bible, it says compelled. Have you seen legalist response? Today, there are a lot of people who live like that, who lead a very obligated life, who lead an obligated response. I don't know, if I take you 2000 years back, what would be your response? Now, this guy is a traveler for a Passover festival. He has come with a family. He has two children. His names of the sons are also mentioned. One, you'll find those names being mentioned as Alexander and Rufus. You will find that in Mark chapter 15, verse 21, you can find these two people. Interestingly, he is there for the Passover. And now, as he's going on the road, I told you the distance between where Jesus, the palace, to the Golgotha, it is exactly 1 mile. Now, by the Roman rule, if the Roman soldier can tell anybody on the road, because Israel is the Jewish Israel is a colony of Romans, right? So they need to listen to whatever the Roman soldier says. So the Roman soldier on the road, he says, if he finds anyone and he says, pick up it, take up this cross, because Jesus is not getting up. He's already fallen several times. So he wants him to support and carry it. So it's an order. It's his order and forced. The word forced and compelled to carry the cross for Jesus. So he was compelled to carry for 1 mile for Jesus that 18-kilo beam of that wooden beam to Golgotha. Now you have to understand that It is not something Simon the Cyrene volunteered. It's not that, like sometimes you have seen in the road, right? Sometimes, oh my God, you're very going through hard time. You're very hard time, hard time. Sometimes people will talk about all kind of things for you, but they don't want to come and really help you. It's not that Simon volunteered. Keep that in mind. Always we think, oh man, Simon Cyrene volunteered. No, no, he was compelled. He was forced. He was forced. And by the way, Cyrene is a place in it's in North Africa. Sometimes people say he must be a black, or he because there is a lot of Jewish population settled far away. Now, I don't know how you view it. It is very, very important as he was taking the cross alongside the old Jerusalem road. In fact, the Via Dolorosa, the song, which talks about the entire journey into that old Jerusalem up to Golgotha. It's very interesting. Simon wouldn't have thought that morning when he traveled to Jerusalem that he's going to end up carrying the cross for Jesus. Or even several years later, the same Simon, if you know, he has been, Romans chapter 16:13 will tell you, his two sons, which is the two sons which I said in Matthew 27 and 32, father of Alexander and Rufus, they become disciples of Jesus. They become strong Christians. The church in Rufus' house, there talks about he becomes a Christian preacher. Romans 16:13, Paul talks about it. My friend, what is your reaction? Are you doing your quiet time because you have to do? Oh, I'm forced to do it? Are you building a relationship with Jesus because you have to go to church? Are you being something because you're obligated? Are you doing legalistic, very legalistic? You don't love because you don't do to Jesus because you love, but it's like an obligation. Oh, it's my duty. No, no. Oh, Cyrus, Simon did it as a duty. You and me, think about it, what you want to do. Okay, let's run into the fifth C, which I would call the crying women. What happened to the crying women? The crying women is so important because Luke chapter 23:27 talks about the women. Following him was a large crowd of people, including women who were mourning and wailing for him. But Jesus, turning to them and said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourself and for your children." Now, why did Jesus say that? People were crying and emotional. I've seen today in certain part of the countries, there are people in Philippines and other nations I've seen, they even typically go and do crucifixion staging. They do crucifixion staging. To that extent, people get they beat themselves and they cry and they mourn and sympathize. They give a very clucking, oh Jesus, what happened? They do get into that kind of mode of sympathizing, and that's what they did on Luke chapter 23:27. But Jesus stops them and say, "Don't cry for me, do not weep for me, weep for yourself." What is he trying to say? He was saying there is much more worse thing is coming, because 40 years later the whole city of Rome is going to be burnt, and your own children will be burnt and will be kept as street lights, burnt as charred street lights. So you pray for your children, the salvation of your children. That's what he is trying to say. In fact, he was saying, then they will begin to say to the mountains, verse 30, to the mountains, fall on us, and to the hills, cover us. In fact, this same verse comes in Revelation chapter 6, verse 16. He's talking about the end times. He's talking about the last days. My friend, today you have so many people who calls it injustice. Oh, Jesus shouldn't have been crucified. Jesus shouldn't have been through this. But then it's not a real heart conversion. They are not transformed. They may cry, they may weep, but Jesus is saying, don't cry for me. Cry for your children. Then cry for your nation. Cry for your family who is not saved. On Good Friday, that are many people who will sit and cry. I understand. But cry for the people who didn't know yet Jesus is risen. He is risen, right? So think about it. So that's the crying response. I'm not saying no to cry, but Jesus is saying crying comes with transformation. Finally, I want to say the sixth C is the criminal on the cross. Now, I would call him a postponer. That many people think it differently, but I would call it postponer. Luke chapter 39. One of the criminals who had been hanged on a cross beside him, he was saying, kept hurling abuse on Jesus. Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and even us from death. That's what one of the criminals said, right? And then the other one rebuked him, saying, do you not even fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? We are suffering justly because we're getting what we deserve for what we have done. But this man has done nothing wrong. Look at that. Has done nothing wrong. Where did this person get this? Where did this guy get this kind? The criminal eyes got opened. You know how his eyes got opened? When he looked at Jesus, there was a placard on top of his thing. It says the King of the Jews. So the robber or the criminal read that and he said, oh, you're a king. So your kingdom is coming. So at least I lived like, probably, I'm just thinking that person must be like 40s, 50s. He is just thinking, anyway, I've died. I've done all the rotten things, all the wicked things, and I'm going to die. I don't know where I'm going. At least give me this kingdom, this world did not give me any life. Let me jump into this guy's kingdom. And he tries Jesus at that time. He's not going to lose anything or gain anything. He had a leap of faith. It's not like he had a total moment for transfiguration or transformation. There's no time. It's a 6 hours hanging on the cross, and he reads this. He is also bleeding, and he reads a placard in 3 languages. At least I don't know which language this criminal speaks, whether it's a Latin or a Greek or a Hebrew, because all the 3 languages, it was written by Pontius Pilate, and he read it correctly, and his eyes open, and he says, come on, I want to be with you. I want to be with you. And you know what Jesus says? Today you will be with me in paradise. And by the way, paradise, as I remember teaching you, it's not first heaven. We have 3 heavens. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right? It's not one heaven. Heavens and the earth. So what you see, the first heaven is the starry skies. The second heaven is the Satan's headquarters. The third heaven, which Paul is taken up, which you read in the Corinthians, you find that it is very clear. He's talking 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 2. He talks about the paradise where you and me, by belief, if you die believing Jesus, continue to believe the resurrected Savior, the risen Savior, you and me are going to be in paradise. So this guy waited all the 50 years or 60 years. I don't know how old he was. Definitely he is more older than Jesus, I believe, because Jesus is a young man of 33 years, 33 and a half years. So why would you postpone? Today I talk to teenagers, they'll say, no, let me get old and then I can come to church. Let me become little old. Oh, really? You don't have much time. You know, the foolish virgins, they thought they have time. No, the bridegroom came. The door was shut. It could be yours. You may never get a chance like this criminal. If you think probably you follow the strategy of the criminal, no chance, my friend. It's no chance. Okay, let's jump into the last C. I know it's a lot going on that 6 hours. The last C, if you and me want to be one person, one response, it should be like the courageous disciple, John. Apostle John really moves my heart. You know what? He was with Jesus everywhere. He's like a little worm going wherever Jesus went. You know, he was there at the last minute on the Last Supper, just reclining on Jesus' chest. You know, he went even inside the courtyard because he could see exactly. If you read John's record, the gospel, or 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, or the book of Revelation, all this you can find. He's an eyewitness. In fact, John says, I have seen this so that you will believe. You can see that again and again. John chapter 19, verse 35. You want to read that? John 19:35. Go on, please. John 19:35. Okay. He who saw it has borne witness. His testimony is true. He knows that he is telling the truth, that you also may believe. So he's an eyewitness. He's an eyewitness. You can never miss that. You can never miss that. So John is saying he was there when Caiaphas trial is going, Roman trial is going. He was watching, and he was there at the foot of the cross. You know why? Look at that in John 19:26. Only John records this, and he looks at his mother. You know, when Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby the cross, he is very courageous. You know, if he can be killed, if Jesus can be killed on the cross, his disciple can be killed on the cross. That's why Peter denied. That's why Judas couldn't be there. You get what I'm saying? He was standing nearby, courageous disciple, and you know what he said? He said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." It's not disrespect, but he said, "Mother, behold your son." And then he said to this disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour, you should put the circle there, not day. From that hour, from that minute, Jesus, the disciple, took the mother into his home. John, you will find Mother Mary hanging out with John all the time. Way up in Acts chapter 1 and 2, you will find in the upper room, she is with John. And maybe Jesus had other brothers and sisters, but then they wouldn't have known the Lord yet. They are not yet saved. But Jesus did everything on time correctly. Sometime when you and me are passing, right? You may think, oh my God, I've done everything. You should learn from Jesus. He never leaves anything unfinished. If you think your mom's taking care of your mom and your dad is a government's problem or a hospital problem, no, it's your problem. It was Jesus' problem. Jesus said, you go and provide and protect. It means verse 27 will say, then he said to the disciple, look, here is your mother, protect and provide for her. Very clear. Psychologically, physically, financially, whatever you can call it, protect and provide. And that's what he's talking about. And in fact, Mary knew, right? Mary knew right from the start. You should ask Mary. Mary standing there, she knows when Simeon told her, there will be a sword will pierce your heart on day 8. You know, day 8, when she went with the baby to the temple, that's what Simeon said. So she was thinking, when this day will come, and the day has come, it's crushed my heart. That's what she would take from what Jesus said on the cross to the disciple and to Mother Mary. My friend, I just want to tell you, what is your response today? I know it's a long talk, but I want to tell you, Jesus was there hanging 6 hours. I only went overboard by a few minutes, but I just want to tell you, what is your response? Think about it. And almost all the disciples, half the disciple of Jesus was crucified. It's not just Jesus. Peter was crucified upside down in Rome. You cannot miss. Andrew crucified on a X-shaped cross in Greece. Philip crucified possibly upside down in Hierapolis. And Matthew was being killed by the sword or crucified in Ethiopia. And Simon the Zealot, tradition says he was crucified or sawed in half. And then Bartholomew, he was flayed, skinned alive and sometimes to be crucified and later crucified. If that is you, think about it. If you probably say, Chris, I want the crown, I don't want the cross, that's not Christianity. And because my Bible says, Galatians 2:20 says, you and me, not when we go 2,000 years back, and even today morning, I just want to tell you, I love this text which says, I've been crucified with Christ, that I no longer live, and but Christ lives in me. The life I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. So every day, every minute, are you crucified with Christ? You're crucifying your old self and you're resurrected into your new self. So crucifixion is not just for Jesus. It happened for his disciples. It's happening for you and for me. And sometimes people think, oh, Chris, I understand that, but I'm praying for this. This is not happening. I'm praying for my family. I'm praying for my finance. I'm praying for my health. I just want to tell you one word which always encourages me, which Paul writes in Romans 8:32. He said, he who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also with him graciously give us all things? What more do you need, my friend? He has cleaned your sin white as snow. Shall we pray? Father God, what a powerful work you've done on the cross, oh God. Nothing can be replaced. There's no restitution. There's no redemption without you. Thank you for giving us that. But help us to choose the right response to be that courageous disciple who followed you no matter what. Deny yourself, take up the cross, and follow you. Not just the crown, follow you. Father, forgive us. And we believe the blood of Jesus cleanses us from all sins. And let us keep that, been crucified with you every moment. In Jesus' name we receive the blessing. Amen. God bless. Any questions?